All right. We have Mona on the space too, and we're going to be talking about the future of Olympic weightlifting and any training Q&A that you have in this space. Hopefully we get some more people in this. As we get started. All right, Mona, we might as well do this anyway because we're going to record it and we'll throw it up on the YouTube channel as well.
Okay.
But do you want to maybe start with the recent news that came out of the IWF and some of the bullshit that's going on there?
Yes, so basically what happened was the World Championships were hosted last week, which was an Olympic qualifier. And obviously the best of the best athletes compete at the World Champs. And one of the athletes, who's specifically very well known, multiple World Championships medals behind her name, going for her, to qualify for her second Olympics. Kate Vibert, and she, like in weightlifting, let me quickly explain this. So in weightlifting, how it works is you obviously have your competition lifts and you'll go onto the platform and you'll lift, but it works in weight categories. So you will go 2 hours before your weightlifting competition and you will go and weigh in. And recently, just to kind of explain a little bit of the backstory. So recently in weightlifting, they changed the rules a bit. Now, before you could potentially, or not potentially, you could weigh in with whatever you wanted to. If you wanted to weigh in with your weightlifting suit, or in your underwear or naked or whatever, you could weigh in the way you want to. So if you are an athlete that has competed in weight sports, you will most probably understand this a lot better. And females have female officials that will make sure that they get on the scale and things are correct. And often what will happen, athletes will weigh completely naked because they want to be the least amount of weight they can be to fit into their category. Because obviously every gram in weightlifting counts. So you don't want to cut weight till you are like, say, I think Kate competed in one of the 70s body class, or maybe even the 81s. But in any case, you want to go in and be like almost as close as possible to the end range of that weight category, because in weightlifting, that will mean you've got more strength, you've got more energy, and you didn't have to do a massive weight cut to get into your category. So recently, the IWF, which is the International Weightlifting Federation, changed the rules. They have made it now that it is compulsory to weigh in with a weightlifting suit. And in saying that, there were some countries who, when you compete, you have to wear the official country's weightlifting suit. And like some would call it a singlet or whatever. But the thing is, there were some of the countries who would have weightlifting suits who would weigh quite heavy. So a lot of them, because of this new rule, had to potentially either get new sponsors for their weightlifting suits or new designs for their weightlifting suits, to make sure that it is as light as possible to make sure that they can weigh in. Okay, so that is kind of the backstory of what I'm going to get to now. And now at the World Championships, the a bunch of the USA weightlifters, wanted to weigh in with a weightlifting suit that is as light as possible so that they can fit into their weight category really well. And there were previously a bunch of athletes who weighed in with this exact same weightlifting suit, and there was absolutely no problem at all, which was all good and well. But now Kate, who is the world-class athlete, world championships medalist and everything, she went in to go do her weigh-in. Now, if anyone knows Kate, she is a beautiful woman, but also she is on the curvier side of things. and which is fine. I mean, in sport, every woman is built differently. I always say, that's kind of the beauty of the sport as well. She's not like the typical super thin, ripped athlete. She looks very feminine and she lifts big weights. So I feel like she's a really good role model also for sports, showing that you don't always have to have that masculine body in order to be a good weightlifter, especially when it comes to females. Now, when Kate went to go weigh in and she had this weightlifting suit on, the officials that were in there actually started pointing at her and pointing at her breasts, saying things in their language, because they were obviously from another country, and they were basically scolding Kate for how her body looks. And this made her very, very uncomfortable. And honestly, I've never ever heard of something like that at an international event. Like, it blowed my mind to think that an athlete would feel scolded for how big their breasts are or how their body looks and stuff like that. That is just so unprofessional. But then what ended up happening was Kate was like, okay, what's going on? They were basically pointing at her saying, no, you can't weigh in with that suit. This is unacceptable, pointing at her breasts because her breasts are on the larger side. She then, went to a coach, in tears, telling him, they don't want to accept, the way she is with that weightlifting suit. Luckily she was quite under her weight category, so it wouldn't have made a difference. So she ended up putting on her singlet, her weightlifting suit, which had legs as well. So it was a long-legged one, obviously a bit heavier, but it was still fine. She could still fit into a weight category quite easily. So Kate ended up getting the weightlifting suit and wanting to put it on. And the officials actually said to her that she must get undressed in front of the officials. They will basically, so she has to get fully naked in front of them. And that's why I kind of told the backstory as well of the weightlifting, because they changed the rules recently to make sure that no athlete will be naked. That's why they said athletes must wear weightlifting suits. So instead of giving Kate privacy to change her weightlifting suit, they wanted her to change her weightlifting suit in front of them, and they insisted. And this obviously made Kate super, super uncomfortable. She voiced, her concern, and they were like not having it. They were like, you have to get changed in front of us, which to me is like mind blowing. She ended up doing that, changed into a weightlifting suit. Then they also noticed that, wow, her breasts look exactly the same in this weightlifting suit. And this is the weightlifting suit she's competing in. And this obviously made Kate super uncomfortable. They just made, they made such a mockery of not just the fact that she's an elite level athlete and a world class athlete. I mean, no female athlete should ever be felt like this or feel like this. And what now ended up happening is, Kate walked out of the weigh-in room. She did her weigh-in and whatever, but she was in tears, super upset, going and competing then like an hour after your weigh-in, and you are in tears and you are upset because, people made you feel embarrassed of your body. That's kind of like the backstory of what happened. And now USA Weightlifting is also insisting that the International Weightlifting Federation does not only, I think, a public apology, they want to call out the officials that were scolding Kate. And in my opinion, as an athlete, this is probably the best thing that they can do. No athlete should ever be felt like that. No official should ever make this mistake by acting like unprofessional. And that's kind of the story behind it. I don't know if James wanted to add like, his 2 cents or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, well, the best thing about Spaces is I can say people are fucking retarded and dumbasses, because on Twitter, if I try type it, it comes up with like, other people on Twitter don't talk like this. Do you want to change it? So I think they'll like shadow ban me if I write that stuff. So at least on Spaces, I can call people fucking retards.
Yeah, well,
Because,
it is, it 100% is. And I
but
voiced,
nothing's going to happen, right? Nothing's going to happen
no,
because
exactly.
all those IWF officials and all that, they're all buddy circle jerking each other.
I'm pretty
You know,
sure,
like that's how they get in,
I'm pretty
and
sure,
so they protect each other.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure, James, that in the article that came out, the IWF said that they will handle this privately, which means no one
Which
will
means they'll
be.
probably give them a raise.
Yes, exactly. And well, the thing is, like, these kind of officials acted out of line. And if an athlete acts out of line, if an athlete tests positive, if an athlete, does something that they weren't supposed to do, they will be the headline of any article and people will know about it. And I feel like those who
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
officials who acted unprofessionally should have the same scolding. They should be put out in the public. They should have, some sort of even if it's a provisional ban, or something like that, and just be like, hey, listen, for like the next 6 months, you can't judge or official at any international events, because this is something, in my opinion, that is just so wrong. Like, I mean, I've been an athlete my whole life, like, and nothing is worse than a female feeling like their body is not accepted, or their body doesn't fit into the norm. And when you have this feeling, it affects your self-confidence. You need to now go out and deliver the best performance of your life in order to qualify for the Olympics. And these officials who are supposed to be super professional, if you are an official at an international event, you would have officialed many, many, many times before as well. So for them to do something like that, it just shows that there's something missing still in the higher ups. There's still, there's basically just something that is still not there for, like, at the athlete's benefit, because at the end of the day, it's the athletes who should be looked after. This new rule with the weightlifting suit was put in to protect the athletes, yet athletes now feel almost more scolded, and basically put into a position where they are vulnerable, because now the next time another girl goes for weigh-in in a weightlifting suit that's maybe got either bigger legs or a bigger breasts or bigger arms or whatever, that person will now think, what if this happens to me? And no thought like that should ever be put into any woman's mind, regardless if you're an athlete or not.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen to those officials. Those officials, again, should be either a provisional ban or just be kicked out altogether. It doesn't. None of what they did makes any sense. Literally, you could weigh in without a suit previously. It's like the first time you had to weigh in with the suit. So I don't know why it's somehow this big issue. And it's the whole ruling makes no sense. Just none of the actions make sense. I know Mia agrees. She says it doesn't make sense either. But yeah, I don't think anything will happen from this. Even with USA putting pressure on them is good. But yeah, there's only so much they can do. They probably need more backing from other federations, but no other federations probably really care because it wasn't their athlete. So that's the other issue as well. So whether IWF does anything, I guess we'll know.
Yeah, I also wanted to add as well, no other federations. Well, I'm hoping obviously other federations will. Like, I don't want to say none, but there are certain federations who are and were in the past on the payroll of the IWF, and those are the ones who would never ever speak out against the IWF. And when it comes to things like that, I remember, I think it was in 2020 or 2021, it was the reform. Like, athletes were signing petitions and they wanted their federations backings to basically reform the whole International Weightlifting Federation, because it came out that basically almost all of them were involved in smuggling money, hiding doping cases. I mean, they even made a documentary on it. Thomas Ajan, if anyone's listening and, they've seen the documentary, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was all over the news. So the athletes wanted a complete reform. They wanted a whole new, international weightlifting board. And I still remember there were federations out there who didn't want to stand for this. They didn't want to fight or sign the reform letter and be like, okay, I'm 100% backing, the athletes with this thing. And that to me was like already a blatant, okay, we will not speak out against the International Federation. We would not, basically they're saying we will not put our athletes first. It is us because we want to be on the board and we want to have benefits and not worry about any athletes at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's just the corruption involved, which is why nothing is probably going to happen. But what do you think, Mona? Do you think this affects anything with the next Olympic cycle? Whether will there influences if they stay in or not?
To be honest, I don't think this is going to affect anything. The IWF has tried or made quite a few public announcements of things that they are doing to try and keep the sport in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean the IOC probably supports what happens anyway.
Well, regardless, like if they end up, if the IWF end up like sticking to their word and doing all of the things, like they created a whole like a refugee team now, and they're doing all the right things, quote unquote. But it now just depends if they are actually gonna like stick with it and follow through. I think that's actually the main thing. Are they gonna follow through on all of these things that they said they were gonna do? And the biggest thing is, I guess we'll probably see in the next week or so if they are going to do anything. But this exact incident that happened where this athlete, had this, massive embarrassment happening, nothing. How can I say? It won't affect. I don't think it will affect anything going into the Olympics.
Yeah, yeah, that's.
I think
that's a
for
good
them
point.
it's like this is small change, which is
Yeah.
so sad because this is like an athlete who has her body got violated basically.
Yeah. Yeah, for them, this is nothing. This is like, yeah, it doesn't do anything to the sport. It's not doping cases, like whatever. But you obviously have I mean, I'm going to put allegedly behind all these statements anyway. Allegedly. But I mean, the IOC is just as corrupt, allegedly, as the IWF is corrupt, allegedly. Like, it's just ongoing. I have to say allegedly, always.
Of course.
But that's just like having been involved in high level professional sport for so long, and even you yourself experienced that being involved in high level professional sport and so long. We've seen shit. We've seen shit that other people don't get to see, don't ever see as a spectator or a fan of a sport. We've been inside it, and not just one sport, multiple sports, and we've seen what goes on behind the scenes in these sports. And if the average person knew, I'm sure there'll be some fucking social media fucking backlash, Me Too kind of bullshit movement, like on that stuff. Because it's just like, it's another level what goes on in these things. And because it's sport and not like, maybe it doesn't involve people's livelihoods and the economy, and these professional athletes typically get looked after and paid well, and people just don't really care, it's more of an entertainment thing versus a livelihood thing for most people watching. So it kind of goes under the radar with what happens there. But yeah, it is allegedly very, very corrupt. All the things that go on in all these sports and everything there. But
I
you have more to add there.
If anything, if nothing potentially comes from it, it would just be nice. First and foremost, I would love the Athletes Commission to talk about this, to stand behind another athlete that got put in this position. And I haven't seen any, post about the Athletes Commission. I haven't seen the Athletes Commission, voicing their opinion about it. I haven't seen the Athletes Commission, stand behind Kate with this thing. And I'm waiting for that, because at the end of the day, the Athletes Commission now, their voice is super important to the IOC. And what's been said is, if the Athletes Commission, who is a part of the International Weightlifting Federation, isn't happy with anything and they voice anything, the IOC has the responsibility to listen. And anyone out there, the IWF, their responsibility is to listen, because that's why they created the IWF Athletes Commission. And, I'm yet to see them either write a letter or do something about it, because, their opinion is probably stronger than anyone else's opinion. And also, like USA did this letter, stating, a public letter stating that action needs to be taken. But I feel like if the Athletes Commission had to do the exact same thing, or Athletes Commission members would share Kate's stuff, it would be a lot better for Kate's case, and it would be a lot better for preventing something like that in the future to happen again in weightlifting.
Yeah, but we both know that's not going to happen for other reasons.
Yeah, but I would like to put them on the spot, like I would like to say, are you guys going to do anything? And it will then show a lot, about where not their values, but like where
Start
they
tagging
stand.
the Athletes Commission on Instagram.
Yeah, I should. And I should actually have tagged them in my recent post that I made, because I tagged the IWF. And
Yeah.
I had a bunch of athletes message me about it. But it doesn't help. It doesn't help if things just stay in DMs. It doesn't help if people just say, oh my gosh, this is so bad. It needs to be there should be athletes who's got, profiles, because there's athletes on the Athletes Commission who's got hundreds and thousands of followers. These athletes should be sharing this, and this should be going viral, and this should be going public, and this will help action to be taken.
Yeah, fully agree. But as these things go, this will be forgotten about by next week, and nothing will come of it. And that's just the sad thing about this stuff. It will be swept under the rug. People will forget, and it'll be done.
Well, if something does happen, we will jump on another space, and we will talk about it.
Yeah, if something does happen, we'll definitely cover it on the space, and we'll be throwing it on YouTube too. But I think that brings this one to the end. A nice quick one. But make sure to follow Lift Big E Big, follow Mona, because we're going to do more spaces covering training, wisdom, weightlifting, news, all sorts, just everything and anything to do with strength sports, really, and training and getting huge, getting jacked, getting tanned, because Mona's getting tanned now, I think, and then getting shredded. All right. Oh, well, good. We will catch you guys in another space.
I just want to say one more thing.
Yep. Go.
When anyone listens, if you put this on YouTube or wherever, if anyone wants to weigh in on this thing that happened, we would love to hear your opinion on this or your thoughts.
Yeah, good call. And if you are listening on YouTube and Spotify, etc., make sure you follow Lift Big E Big on Twitter. Just search Lift Big E Big and you'll find it. All good.